Here's a fun fact about me. I don't play a lot of new games the day or month or even the year that they're released. I tend to be more patient with my new game purchases, partly because of money, but also because I just don't have a lot of interest in new stuff, be it AAA or indie. In fact, the last game I can remember actually being excited for and playing day one was Crow Country by SFB Games. Those guys make great stuff, please go check them out. But before that, my interest was shot in pretty much everything, even in the series that I hold as my favorite. But there was one other game that I've been anticipating for a long while now, and I had to get this on day one. If you're familiar with my content at all, then it should come as no shock to you that I've been dying to play Stray Children, the spiritual successor to Love-De-Lic's Moon Remix RPG adventure. And as a quick crash course for those of you who have no idea what Love-De-Lic is or just need a reminder, they were a short-lived Japanese studio that later dissolved and broke off into smaller projects. A lot of their games dealt with pretty heavy themes in contrast to how cute and cartoony they were, and often carried the message of compassion or empathy or something else like that. Some of their games that you may be familiar with besides Moon includes Chibi Robo, Tulip, Rule of Rose, Little King Story, and a lot of those games play very much like Moon as well. They usually have a day and night cycle with characters that stick to a schedule, and they mostly require you to have conversations with them or bring them a specific item to progress. I've seen these games referred to as anti-RPGs and life simulators, but I just know my mind goes to Love-De-Lic whenever I see something else like it. And they aren't really as mundane as I'm probably making them sound either. Anyways, a while back in 2012, a few of the Love-De-Lic alumni got together and decided to start a new studio called Onion Games. And most of their titles, since their release of Moon Remix RPG Adventure, have been lighter, more arcadey experiences that have even seen release on mobile. But a few years ago, in 2023, they announced their largest project yet, a new game called Stray Children, that's clearly inspired by Moon to anyone who's ever played it. And it's here now. I ended up buying Stray Children on Steam, and I have some thoughts that I would like to share on it. Now, normally I would save all of my thoughts for a larger video, but that would take me too long to write and edit, and I want to talk about this game right now while my feelings on it are still fresh. So you're gonna get my less scripted thoughts in a new type of video that I want to do more on this channel that I'm calling Memory Card. Sometimes these videos might lean more into being like simple recommendations of games, sometimes they might be more just general thoughts on something, and I guess sometimes like this one, they'll just be raw first impressions. You know, they're just intended to be my quick thoughts on something that I want to talk about and don't feel like making an entire video for. I think it would also help when it comes to uploading more to this channel, because as you can see, the uploads can range from a couple weeks to entire months. This one isn't completely unscripted though, because here's another fun fact about me. I journal all of my thoughts on every single game that I intend to play to completion, and I have some rather unfortunate ones on Stray Children. They're not all bad though. For starters, the first thing that really popped out to me about this game is just how much of a love letter it is to Moon Remix RPG Adventure. I mean, the first 10 to 15 minutes of this game recreates the entire story of Moon. You get transported into a game, you land in the same spot on the same map, you meet the hero and other familiar characters again, and it ultimately ends with you being forced to continue playing or not. If you're confused by any of that, I suggest playing Moon yourself or watching my video on it. This game is inspired in other ways too, as you'll see in the combat, which is brand new for these types of games. And I gotta say, I find the inclusion of combat in general interesting, because that challenges a lot of what I believe Moon was trying to preach. To me, that game was very much forcing you to face the consequences of your actions by dealing with the destruction and mayhem that the typical RPG protagonist causes by getting into fights. But here's the thing. If you play this game a certain way, then I don't think you're defeating Moon's purpose at all. You can choose to attack your enemies, but you can also talk to them and get them to open up, a decision that I imagine was largely inspired by Undertale. And for those of you who don't know, Undertale was inspired by Moon as well, so there's a weird loop of influence here. It can be really hard trying to figure out what you're supposed to say if you want to go the pacifist route though. The game does give you a few things you can say to an enemy, and when you're on the right track, the dialogue box will say something along the lines of, "The enemy's heart opened up a little bit," but you have to hit the next option in order as well, and if you fail that, then you'll have to repeat the entire process. And it doesn't always say that the heart has opened up stuff all the time, so sometimes you're gonna be saying random things to enemies with a lot of trial and error, hoping that you're just on the right track. Even the hints that this game gives you feel like complete nonsense half the time, and it all contributes to the combat not being enjoyable as it should be. It honestly feels like a step back from something like what's in Undertale. Like they caught the vibe of how combat works in that game and they wanted to put it into their own, but it doesn't really work here because they didn't put much else thought into it. If you're going the pacifist route, the trial and error combat really drags this game out as well. I've spent upwards of 20 minutes on multiple enemies just trying to figure out how to beat them, and none of it was really enjoyable. When I did finally get them to open up, it wasn't like a, "oh man, that feels so satisfying" moment. It was more like a, "alright, well, here we go, on to the next one, I guess." But with that said, I still do find the pacifist playstyle more interesting than the one where you just straight up attack all the enemies you see. Thankfully, the enemies don't respawn or anything, there's only a limited number of them, but I'm in no rush to beat this game. I'm taking my time with this one. I'm not looking at any guides or anything if they even exist yet. And when it comes to everything that's not the combat, I have been having a blast figuring things out for myself. The puzzle solving is where a lot of the challenge in these games come from, and they deliver here too, in pretty comical ways as well. They didn't lose their touch when it comes to the humor and zaniness of it all. This game is still as fun and surreal and pretty and charming as ever, with plenty of references too. The rum-rums from Moon return. I'm pretty sure this hand descending from the sky is a reference to Tulip. This fish as well reminds me of one of the animals from Moon Remix RPG Adventure. And you know, all around it's just fun seeing all these callbacks to previous works and stuff. But seeing them all did make me wonder, what is this game really doing to stand on its own? And the answer is a lot. I don't want to make it sound like this game is entirely just trying to pander hard to fans of old work and stuff like that. But I can't say that everything this game does to differentiate itself is for the best. The biggest way that this game stands out is by being far more linear, which makes sense because this game is far more narrative driven than their previous works. You're actually on a quest to find your father in this game. And this is entirely on me, but with the attitude and expectations that I went into this game with, I wasn't expecting it to be linear at all. They're normally open and give you a lot of freedom to do whatever you want, which means you can handle things at your own pace. But with this game, there's a lot of missables, a lot of hidden stuff and enemies that you can completely not see if you're unaware that they exist. And I did find that kind of disappointing. You know, I've been contemplating just restarting the game because I feel like I've locked myself out of a good ending or something. But I'm committed to doing multiple playthroughs of this game anyways, because I'm assuming this game has multiple endings with the inclusion of a pacifist route. It's stuff like that that makes this game frustrating in the same way other Love-De-Lics were tedious as well. But I find it even more annoying here because the minds behind this game have years and years of experience to learn from. I don't completely hate the linearity though. Like I said, this decision does sacrifice some of the freedom that made these games uniquely them. But the fun of discovering this entire world was still there for me. I've enjoyed coming across the different parts of this map and meeting the new characters. It's a world that's full of children without any parents. In fact, I can only remember seeing a handful of adults in this game. Your companion who guides you to find your father and later turns into a dog, the few characters from the parody Moon game, and all of the enemies who are referred to as Olders. I'm only halfway through the game, so I don't want to jump to any conclusions here, but I am having fun theorizing about what's really going on here and seeing how it all relates to our protagonist, the dog-faced child, as well. There's a prison in this game where the children are sentenced by an unseen judge to not sleeping, but they all seem to revere him for some reason. Just as there's a mushroom land where the children do nothing but sleep and desire to see their papa. I want to finish this game because I'd like to see how it all culminates. If I had to sum this game up, I would say it's cute and charming just as much as it's frustrating. I really hate to say this because I do love Onion Games and the people behind it and all of their work, but Stray Children has been a bit disappointing to me so far. I can't say that this is a great game, and I can't really recommend it to anyone who hasn't built up a tolerance for the special brand of bullshit that comes with these kinds of games. Personally, I still don't really regret my purchase. I still think there's a lot here to appreciate visually, story-wise, etc. But I'd be a liar if I said I wasn't a little bit let down. Thankfully, most of my issues with the game can be patched. I don't think the game is doomed entirely, but if Onion Games were hoping to win any new fans with this one, then I think only the masochists who can appreciate this game for everything besides the gameplay are gonna stick around.